All right, you've heard me say it time and time again that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is probably the best iPhone ever made. And so I've recently picked up the 16 Pro Max. I'm going to compare it with the 13 Pro Max. Now, this is currently the rear camera with no cinematic video or anything, just regular 4K. And I'm going to now switch to the 16 Pro Max and just see what improvements Apple has made from the 13 to the 16. Let's switch it out. Now here is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, just kind of standing in the same spot. I'm talking at a really low tone because I'm outside and, I don't want to disturb the neighbors or whatever, or have them, listen to me. But nonetheless, this is the 16 Pro Max and here's the 13 Pro Max. Again, rear camera, 4K 60 for this part of the video. And I'll go out into the elements and walk around with both phones. But I wanted to see just how much improvements Apple has done for video quality. So here's the 16 Pro Max. And now I'm going to switch back to the 13 Pro Max and we're going to do some more recording. Now here is the 13 Pro Max front camera. Here's the 16 Pro Max here. So just kind of recording, no external microphones this time, just kind of weighing it. And I'll get some footage of me not talking and me just kind of showing both the rear cameras as well. But here's the front camera. Let me know what you think about this quality right here. Now here's the 16 Pro Max. So you're just getting a glimpse of the front camera, standing in the same position here. I'm gonna go ahead again, I'm gonna step out. It's very windy out, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this. I don't wanna use my external mic, but I'm just gonna step out and big gust of wind. I don't know if you can hear that come through, but this is the front camera on the 16 Pro Max. So you can now adjust the f-stop completely on the new iPhones with the camera setup, and I actually can do it on the 13 Pro Max. So this is the 13 Pro Max at an f2.5 f-stop, just standing in the same spot here on the rear camera. You can adjust the f-stop, and then I'll do a cinematic on the front camera as well. But I'm going to go ahead and just walk out and pan, and I'll do the same thing with the 16. This is what the quality looks like with the sun really bright in my face. And that's with the sun not so bright in my face. All right, now here is the iPhone 16 Pro Max at a f-stop of 2.5. I'll do the same thing. I'll walk out in the elements and I'll pan in the sun and swing it back around into the shade like before. One thing I've noticed about both phones is the audio is really good. The 16 Pro Max is really good too. This is what it looks like with the 16 Pro Max with the sun like right in my face. And now here's the shade with the cinematic video f2.5 on the 16 Pro as well. Microphones are really good on this phone. Now on both phones, you can adjust the f-stop on the front as well with cinematic video. So here's the 13 Pro Max at an f2.5, and the f-stop gives you a much blurrier background if you don't know. So This is the front camera on the 13 Pro Max. I'll be switching over to the 16 Pro Max here in just a second, but I'm going to walk out into the elements and do it all over again. Now here is the front camera cinematic video with an f-stop of 2.5 on the 16 Pro Max. And here's the 13 Pro Max. And I think what I'm noticing a pattern here. And at this point, I want to know if you see it too, because I mean, these are phones, but one of them is doing extremely well in a certain area. So I won't expose it in this video, but I want you to tell me in the comments if you know what it is. I'm going out into the elements with the front camera on the 16 Pro Max. All right, guys, to close out, I'm using the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL to finish out this video. I am using my condenser mic, so the audio is not coming from the Pixel, but I wanted to disclose that to you, that I am closing out the video with quality from the Pixel 9 Pro XL. So let's talk about what we just saw here. So it's evident that the 16 Pro Max has improved, but has it improved enough to where you would say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and give up my 13 Pro Max or my 14 Pro Max, especially the 15 Pro Max? And I chose the 13 Pro Max for a reason, because people with the 15 Pro Max are probably not looking at a 16 Pro Max, at least not yet. I've actually heard people say, I'm going from the 13 Pro Max to the 16 Pro Max, or even the 15 Pro Max from the 13 Pro Max. So the 13 Pro Max kind of became the standard for me with a Max phone. I started off with my Sierra Blue, grabbed this one, and decided to keep this one since it was kind of like that limited color after the fact. So, you know, I had the Sierra Blue 13 Pro Max for a year of recording top-down shots on my channel, and then I eventually just went back to my mirrorless camera, selling the blue Sierra after a year, and you know, I had this as well. But all that aside, I noticed a pattern here with what I saw on video. I noticed that the 16 Pro Max canceled out wind and noise better, but it made the 16 Pro Max, it was very clear that it was actually canceling out the sound. It has the 4 mic array on here for better audio for vlogging, and you could tell right away. The 13 Pro Max sounded a little bit like it was louder and more clear, but in reality, the 16 Pro Max was canceling out a lot of sound. Now, if you didn't notice, go back and watch again, and you will notice that every time I switched to the 16 Pro Max, it almost felt a little quieter or whatever. So it's a weird thing to get used to if you're vlogging or whatever. Some people want the louder sound of the voice or whatever, but the 16 Pro Max, it does cancel out sound better. So that's something that I noticed. And then the next thing that I noticed, that I remember at the part where I did the zoom when I was filming both side by side, that right there is something that I really noticed that the 16 Pro Max did better than the 13 Pro Max, because this has 1, 2, and 5, and this has 1 and 3. So I intentionally did that zoom like that so I could kind of feel out like what's the quality gonna be like zooming in. And the quality when you zoom in on pictures and video is much better, especially 20 times zoom on photos for this one. I didn't do photos or anything in this video because, again, I do videography for me, vlogging and stuff like that. That's where I like to use this, and recording of the content or whatever. But tell me what you thought about the skin tones. I thought they were pretty much almost the same, but an area for zooming on here was actually really good and much better on the 16. But the main area I saw that was different was the detail. The detail and the quality that's coming from, and you can kind of notice it on the 13 Pro Max when I zoomed versus the 5 times zoom on the 16 Pro Max. You would think it would be worse on the 16, but it's actually better because sometimes the more you zoom in, the worse it gets. But that was a clear indication. But the vlogging portion, where my face and the hairs on my face and everything, just the regular vlogs, the detail was so much more on the 16 Pro Max. So, and that's cool, because it should be, right? This isn't to put down the 13 Pro Max. This is just to show the improvements that they've done in these small two areas that I chose, 4K 60 and 4K cinematic. That's all I did. And I think for a vlogger, you will see the improvements. And for a person who uses these for top-down shots, you will see the improvement. That's just a fact. It better be improved, because this is 14, 15, and then 16. It's 3 generations later, so it better improve. And a lot of times Apple will use the 12 Pro Max as their benchmark, when the 13 Pro Max, it's just such a good phone. Don't get rid of it, folks. Don't get rid of it. It's your man Jay. Hope you guys enjoyed a quick video. I thought this would be cool to show you. I hope you enjoyed. Watch it again and see if you can find out some of the things that I found when watching this content. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, this is the Pixel 9 Pro XL closing out this video. Take care.